find it is an honor to be asked to provide your keynote address this evening. This evening I want to talk to you about several different things. And as you think about this time in your life, as you end one part of your life, you actually are beginning a new part of your life. And I want to leave you with a couple of questions. First of all, why did you get into human services? I think some of you probably been asking yourself that for several weeks now. Why did I ever get into this? Some of you came at it because you're asking yourself, well, if I do this, I'll get a better job. Many people do it for that reason. The reality is that you won't become rich in human services, but you become rich in terms of providing assistance and help with other people. Because there's always, unfortunately, someone who needs some help. Was it because you like working with people? Many of you have shared the fact that you have worked with people, whether it's in fast food at McDonald's or at Taco Bell or some other place. Somehow I don't see that that's exactly what you had in mind when you said that you like to work with people. For some of you, it's because that you felt as though that you've had a difficult life. And it's an opportunity to give back to some of the things that you have gone through, and perhaps other people that have helped you along the way. Certainly people can relate to that. But deep down inside, what is it that drove you to pursue this degree? Whatever your reason, the process of obtaining your degree has been a journey in which you've been able to explore who you are at its deepest core. Also to be able to explore those deepest strengths that you have. Through the tests, through those times where it's been difficult, somehow you've been able to find that deep part of you that was able to make it. And of course, if you hadn't had the opportunity to explore some of those deeper things in your life, you would have missed out on a lot of things that you found out about yourself. So tonight I want to talk about three important things. I'd like to consider three important things I'd like to give to you and hopefully take with you. Number one, stay focused on the path that you've taken in life. I like to talk about a story that my son, when he was 4 years old, I was standing in line at the auto store, and I was waiting there. I had 5 quarts of oil, had an oil filter, air filter, so I had my hands full. And I'm at the same time trying to hang on to him, make sure he doesn't grab something he shouldn't. Of course, most places they have little trinkets down low so the kids can grab hold of them. And of course, I'm spending my time grabbing him, hanging onto the oil, hanging on to all the various things. And a fellow was standing behind me, and he said, "I'll bet he cuts your work in double." And I had to think about that for a minute, and I said, you're right. Because every time that I would reach for a wrench or I would try to do something, of course, he's trying to help, but at the same time, he's got the wrenches and placing them places that I don't know where they're at, looking all over for things. And of course, throughout the course of time, when it may only take me 10 or 15 minutes to change the oil, it would take me 30. And I got to thinking about how oftentimes in life, because we don't stay focused on our path, that we end up cutting our work in double. It takes us a lot of time to get through with things sometimes because we don't stay focused. So the first thing I'd like to leave you this evening is stay focused. Stay on your path. Don't cut your work in double. Second part is I'd like to ask you to make sure that you spend time taking care of yourself. Stephen Covey, in his book, 7 Habits for Highly Effective People, has a chapter that he talks sharpening the saw. And he uses the story of a fellow that's working in the woods and working in as a logger, and he's cutting trees. Another fellow's coming up to him, and he says, why don't you slow down and sharpen it? He says, I don't have time to. It's taking more time. Sometimes we get moving in so many different directions. We get to going so fast that we don't have time to sharpen the saw. And sharpening the saw has a lot more to do with not just taking vacation time and getting away from things, but it also may include things like continuing your education. By the way, this is not the end of your education. Fortunately and hopefully you will continue to learn the rest of your life. But it also contains things like getting involved in other hobbies, civic organization, groups, friendships, and taking time for your family. I don't know how many times throughout the course of your degree program that I've heard people say, I don't have time to even sit down with my children anymore. I'm so stressed, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to handle this. So I think one of the things that you can do for yourself is to begin to start thinking about how to sharpen your own saw. Don't fall into the trap of telling a feeling that you're the only person who can help clients. After all, you found a job that paid more money, you might leave those clients for another job. Sometimes our egos get in the way. One of the most interesting parts of being in human services is that we are so wound up in trying to help other people that we oftentimes forget that we need to help ourselves. It falls in line with the old adage of physician, heal thyself. And so one of the things that I'd like to leave you this evening is the fact that you need to take time for yourself. And that sharpening of the saw includes not just vacation time, but taking time to visit and spend time with your friends and your family, and also continuing the process of education and learning more on how to be effective as a counselor and human services worker. In other words, learn to leave the job at work. Don't take it home. Take care of yourself so that you can be more effective when you're at the job, when you're working. Thirdly, the third thing I'd like to leave you this evening is kind of a quirky, odd statement, but it'll make sense once I talk about it. And it's called, the map is not the territory. And I heard this several years ago in training for a particular style of therapy that helped me realize that when we look at someone, we're just looking at the outward person. And that just like as a map, and you look at a map, the map represents a territory, it represents the roads, it represents a manner in which you're going to be able to get to a destination. But it's not the actual territory. And when you meet with clients, when you meet with people that you're trying to help, you need to remember what you see is not necessarily the true person. People will be coming to you for help. People will be coming to you to find out ways that they can deal with their lives in a more effective way. And you have to learn to look beyond the superficial and look beyond the facade into the real person. To find that person that's hurting, to find that person who is deeply wounded, to find that person who is there to be able to find some way that they can work their problems out. And they come to you for help. You need to remember that every person has some element of healing that needs to take place. I guess I'd like to think too, and go back to the question, why did you enter human services? I think if you think about, as you begin to work with the clients and realize that you've been given a special opportunity. If you think about it, there are not very many people on the face of the earth that has the opportunity to engage intimately with another human being, where someone is sitting there before you and pouring out their heart, they're pouring out their problems to you. And you need to remember that this is a special position that you've been given, a special place in which not very many people have been able to walk as closely as you have. It's usually a special position that implied within is a place reserved only for those who are invited.